All praises unto the Most High. We are giving thanks unto thee, Father, for thou art merciful and kind to thy people. And also, Father, we give thanks for your continual love and mercy. Here we go again, Israel. We are here with another lesson. We are here to edify and to give truth, for our Heavenly Father is of spirit and truth, right? So it's only fitting for us to do the same, for we were made in what? In our Father's image. And you know what? I guess you know what is right. So it is only right for us to do which is right in the Father's eyes, right? In our Heavenly Father, our Father, which is the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, Israel, I'm bringing some information here to you, which if you have never um, gotten this information before, well, hopefully this will inspire you to really start to really take a deep look within your society and within your own life, right? And also, if you already know this information, well, you know, you'll be getting more that adds to this. So we can, more expand on what we have known and to, you know, make it more fruitful within our day-to-day life, right? So this is a lesson that we'll be getting into, which it will. I have to tell you, it will pull some strings, but I don't come here to let you feel good, which that is part of it, to be honest. But the real thing is to really bring forth truth, and sometimes truth, it is very hard to deal with. You know, so we'll be speaking today about you know uh slave owner. Now, I've done a little research, and the little research that I've done states that you know this particular individual that I'm going to speak about, which is called William Lynch and known as Willie Lynch, right, is basically, they say, almost something that wasn't really in existence because there is no evidence to point towards who is William Lynch, right? But there is a letter, that is, on the internet, and it's been there for a while, from 1999, and that's the first time I've I've been told that that's when it surfaced, and it goes into details of telling you how to make a slave, right? Now, I am not bringing forth this to really speak on too much of slave, but really the deeper psyche and the deeper psychological effects that this letter, you could say, have on the people that have been enslaved. And whether this letter is true or false, the the storylines and the things that it brings forward, we can see it in this present time right now. And if we take the time out just to really, be humble and to take sometimes our emotions away from, a certain situation and just to look at the pure, raw truth, of what is, then we shall be given the truth in its truest form, and only the truth can truly set you free. Right? Now, William Lynch was claimed to be a slave owner in the West Indies, better known in Jamaica. Right? And he had some psychological, I would say, warfare on the mental mind and psyche of the spirit as well on the people that they had enslaved. Just to let you know, that would be my ancestors. And if you were even per se from the West Indies, or even knowing that your foreparents were coming from that lineage, this directly goes out to you as well. Now, if you are from a different, let's say, ethnic background, this is what the word that they use, right? Your ethnicity, right? Well, you can still learn something from it, because whether which fence you're on, there is something to learn, right? And it's really up to you, what you decide that you want to take from this, right? No, William Lynch, The Making of a Slave, is a very serious letter, because this letter entails of how to psychologically break people to your will, right? So let's really take a look. Now, before I go into the audio version of this letter, I'm just going to give you a quick briefing of the letter here myself, right? Now, whether this is true or false, Willie Lynch, the letter, whether it is true or false, as I said before, the the emotions and the psychological craft of this letter would really have to ask yourself some questions, right? Especially if you're living in a country where you have been in, uh, let's say, oppressive state, where you have felt like you have been, you know, dealt unfairly, right? To say the least. No, let's go into the introduction right here. And it states, right? The following is the introduction to a speech said have been delivered by Willie Lynch on the banks of James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712. Lynch is said to have been a British slave owner in the West Indies. He was invited to the colony of Virginia in 1712 to teach his method to owners of enslaved Africans there. Now, let me quickly pause there. Now, the word African, as a broad brush, right? Now, I would have to go into more details where that is concerned, but I'm just going to give you a summary. Now, the word African, for you to broad brush everybody with dark skin to say that they're African, that's actually not accurate. And if you do go into history, it will show you that there's two types of well, two main types of dark skinned people, which is Africans, as what they say, and you have Negro. Now let's go into the biblical names. Now, Africans would be known as Hamites or Ham, and Negro people would be known as Shem or Shemitic, right? Which Shemitic people are from the lineage of Abraham, and Ham, which is the line from Hamites, which is Ham. Ham carries down to Cush and Nimrod, and you do the rest, right? No. Also, Shem and Ham have the same father, which is Noah. Now, with that said, you would say, well, aren't they from the same stock? Thing about that is biblically, just like with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, um, there is a chosen seed, a chosen line, which the Most High have chosen. And the Most High have chosen that seed because of the righteousness of, their forefathers, and because of that, the Most High knows the people that he chose because he's the one that made them. And not only that, he knows who will keep to his commandments and his statutes. All right. Now, over time, those same people that he have chose have actually broken those um, laws and statutes. But nevertheless, because his promise that he made to Abraham, these lineage of people will be still set in their rightful order to do his will, right? To be the type of people that he knows that they are and what they will be one day, right? Now let's quickly continue, right? I'm not going to read all the letter, so we're going to go back to it. So I'm going to go to the audio version where it's more impactful and it's actually more lengthy because this is not all the letter, right? Now it reads right here. Gentlemen, I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year of your Lord. Now, your Lord is not the same Lord as their Lord, because your Lord is the Lord which is of the wicked seed. Now let's continue. 1712 first, I shall thank you, gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my programs is implemented. Right? Now, that's some deep, serious, strong words. Right? So, with that said, now, Israel, I'm going to go to the audio version of this. All right? And it goes in a slightly more detail in terms of the letter and having somebody, read it from a standpoint of their eyes being in a country where, they have experienced these type of things, which I've been to certain countries myself and experienced it myself, right? And I can tell you, it's not a really good feeling, you know what I mean? And not only that, if you're not strong within yourself, you will start to doubt yourself and thinking that you are less than, right? So, with that said, let's get into it.
Speech was said to have been delivered by Willie Lynch on the bank of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712.
All right. So let's start right from the top and let's get with it, Israel.
In its own orbit.
Hold on, what's going on here? I didn't. All right, here we go. Let's go.
William Lynch letter of 1712, read by Nkem Anagor. Before I read the actual letter, I would like to be very clear about my reasons for making this recording. It's Today's date is the 30th of May 2017, and this morning I became aware of this individual called William Lynch for the very first time, and so I looked at the letter, which is based upon a speech that he made on the banks of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712. I will be reading the entire letter for you. The reason why I found it necessary to make a recording myself was because although you can access the written text of complete speech, and you can also hear the speech read on YouTube. There are YouTube recordings. Unfortunately, the YouTube recordings are of a robot, which when you later hear this speech, you will see that the extreme inhumanity, the scientific precision of the inhumanity of the methodology that this individual was sharing with fellow people who were wanting to profit from enslaved peoples. You will see that, in fact, by using a robotic voice, it dehumanizes and it anesthetizes against the content, the real inhumane content of this subject matter. And what I want to do is I wish to present to you the speech with the correct syntax and the emotional content that is part of the actual language, the mind, the mental process in developing a system of inhumane abuse. So there will be some of you whose ancestors are your race. This individual will be one of your ancestors or of the same race as you, and it will be hard listening. On the other hand, you may be listening as someone whose ancestors underwent the reality, who lived through this inhumanity, and again, it will be hard listening. But I'm of the opinion that if there is any hope of justice and of decency and of human evolution, individuals need to have an encounter with the truth, and we must not try and massage it. We must not try and presenting it in any way that anesthetizes us from the real horror, so that we can turn away from it and not pretend that it didn't happen. This is history that I'm reading. This speech did happen, and we all know to this day that the insights from this speech are being implemented. Enough's enough. Thank you.
Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. Willie Lynch. This speech was said to have been delivered by Willie Lynch on the bank of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712.
The Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. This speech was delivered by Willie Lynch on the bank of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712. Lynch was a British slave owner in the West Indies. He was invited to the colony of Virginia in 1712 to teach his methods to slave owners there. The term lynching is derived from his last name. The date, December 25th, 1712. Gentlemen, I greet you here on the bank of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I'm here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sails south on the James River, named but for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its highways in great numbers, you are here using the tree and the rope on occasions. I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple of miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I'm not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. 2012, 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves and make the differences bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantation, and status on plantations. Attitudes of owners. Whether the slaves live in the valley, on a hill, east, west, north, south, have fair hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use dark-skinned slaves versus light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. It is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful of each other. Thank you, gentlemen. So, let's make a slave. It was in the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature, and the slave nature in particular, with a view to practical results. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. They had to deal not with earth, wood, and stone, but with men. And by every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong they were every hour perpetuating, and knowing what they themselves would do were they the victims of such wrongs, they were constantly looking for the first signs of the dread retribution. They watched, therefore, with skilled and practiced eyes, and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and heart of the slave through his sable face. Unusual sobriety, apparent abstractions, sullenness and indifference. Indeed, any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicion and inquiry. Let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a black nigger man, a pregnant nigger woman, and her baby nigger boy. Secondly, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another, that is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature. Whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to care for their offspring, we break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. Cardinal principles for making a Negro. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both the beast together, the nigger and the horse, we understand that short-range planning economics results in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skill-sharp perceptions. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Both horse and niggers is no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production, for orderly future. Special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. We hold the 6 cardinal principles as truth to be self-evidenced, based upon the following discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and the nigger together, all inclusive of the 6 principles laid down about. Note: neither principle alone will suffice for good economics. All principles must be employed for orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or nature nigger is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake, and you are awake while they are awake while you sleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and the nigger must be broken. That is, breaking them from one form of mental life to another. Keep the horse, keep the body, take the mind. Keep the body, take the mind. Keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, the breaking process is the same for both the horse and the nigger, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, there is an art in long-range economic planning. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the nigger. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you, for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. For example, take the case of the wild stud horse, a female horse and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with two captured nigger males in their natural state, a pregnant nigger woman with her infant offspring. Take the stud horse, break him for limited containment. Completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anyone can ride her in comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until they have the desired offspring. Then you can take the stud to freedom until you need him again. Train the female horse, whereby she will eat out of your hand, and she will in turn train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized nigger, use the same process, but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of mind. Take the meanest and most restless nigger, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, the female and the nigger infant. Tar and feather him. Tie each leg to a different horse, faced in opposite directions, set him afire, and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining nigger. The next step is to take a bull whip and beat the remaining nigger to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. The breaking process of the African woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows you any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of resistance out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economic. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking process of the female nigger. we have reversed the relationship in her natural uncivilized state. She would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male. And she would have a limited protective tendency towards her independent male offspring. And she would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reversed nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from a psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offsprings to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You've got the nigger woman out front and the nigger man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economic. Before the breaking process, we had to be alertly on guard at all times. Now, we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. He is a good tool, now ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. By the time a nigger boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. Continually, through the breaking of uncivilized savage nigger, by throwing the nigger female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing of the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the nigger male slave. We have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. We show what we mean by example. Take the case of the two economic slave units and examine them closely. The nigger marriage. We breed two nigger males with two nigger females. Then we take the nigger males away from them and keep them moving and working. Say one nigger female bears a nigger female and the other a nigger male. Both nigger females, being without influence of the nigger male image, frozen with an independent psychology, will raise the offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her. We negotiate her at will. The one with the nigger male offspring, she, being frozen with a subconscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these two offspring become fertile for early reproduction, we shall mate and breed them and continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. Warning. Possible interloping negatives. Earlier, we talked about the non-economic good of the horse and the nigger in their wild or natural state. We talked out the principle of breaking and tying them together for orderly production. Furthermore, we talked about paying particular attention to the female savage and her offspring for orderly future planning. Then more recently, we stated that by reversing the positions of the male and female savages, we created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurred and reshift the positions of the male and female savages. Our experts warned us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring, for they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time. If I can touch some substantial original historical base, and they advised us that the best way to deal with the phenomenon is to shave off the brute's mental history and create a multiplicity of phenomena, of illusions, so that each illusion will twirl in its own orbit, something similar to floating balls in a vacuum. This creation of multiplicity of phenomena, of illustrations, entails the principle of crossbreeding the nigger and the horse, as we stated above, the purpose of which is to create a diversified division of labor, thereby creating different levels of labor and different values of illusion at each connecting level of labor, the result of which is the severance of the points of original beginnings for each sphere illusion. Since we feel that the subject matter may get more complicated as we proceed in laying down our economic plan concerning the purpose, reason, and effect of crossbreeding horses and nigger, we shall lay down the following definition terms for future generation. Orbiting cycle means a thing turning in a given path. Axis means upon which or around which a body turns. Phenomenon means something beyond ordinary conception and inspires awe and wonder. Multiplicity means a great number. Sphere means a globe. Crossbreeding a horse means taking a horse and breeding it with an ass. And you get a dumb, backward ass, long-headed mule that is not reproductive, but nor productive by itself. Crossbreeding niggers means taking so many drops of good white blood and putting them into as many nigger women as possible, varying the drops by the various tone that you want, and then letting them breed with each other until another cycle of color appears as you desire. What this means is this: put the niggers and the horses in a breeding pot, mix some asses and some good white blood. And what do you get? You get a multiplicity of colors of ass, backward, unusual niggers running tied to a backward ass, long-headed mule. The one productive of itself, the other sterile. The one constant, the other dying. We keep the nigger constant, for we may replace the mules for another tool. Both mule and nigger tied to each other, neither knowing where the other came from, and neither productive for itself, nor without each other. Control the language. Crossbreeding completed, for further severance from their original beginning, we must completely annihilate the mother tongue of both the new nigger and the new mule, and institute a new language that involves the new life's work of both. You know, language is a peculiar institution. It leads to the heart of a people. The more a foreigner knows about the language of another country, the more he is able to move through all levels of that society. Therefore, if the foreigner is an enemy of the country to the extent that he knows the body of the language, to that extent is the country vulnerable to enemy, vulnerable to attack or invasion of a foreign culture. For example, if you take a slave, if you teach him all about your language, he will know all your secrets, and he is then no more a slave, for you can't fool him any longer. For example, if you told a slave that he must perform in getting out our crops, and he knows the language well, he would know that our crops didn't mean our crops, and the slavery system would break down, for he would relate on the basis of what our crops really meant. So you have to be careful in setting up the new language for the slaves would soon be in your house, talking to you man to man. And that is death to our economic system. In addition, the definitions of words or terms are only a minute part of the process. Values are created and transported by communication through the body of the language. A total society has many interconnected value systems. All the values in the society have bridges of language to connect them for orderly working in the society. But for these language bridges, these many value systems would sharply clash and cause internal strife or civil war, the degree of conflict being determined by the magnitude of the issues or relative opposing strength in whatever form. For example, if you put a slave in a hog pen and you train him to live there and incorporate in him to value it as a way of life completely, the biggest problem you would have out of him is that he would worry you about provisions to keep the hog pen clean, or the same hog pen and make a slip and incorporate something in his language whereby he comes to value a house more than he does a hog pen. You've got a problem. He will soon be in your house.
So, as you can see, Israel, this is really deep, right? And this touch a lot of things right now that is actually taking place as we speak. Now, whether this letter is false or true, one thing we can say is that some of this information right here is definitely what is taking place with Negro people. And it's something that we have never really truly addressed. And that is the psychological and the mental drama and trauma, and also psychological madness of our people, from the woman to children and even the male, which is the most threatening to the psychological and, mental of the oppressor that's oppressing these people. And for you to even sit down and really meditate and to have these things in your psyche to do unto another, that is definitely some demonic activity there. Now, why you would say something like this would happen, and seeing that we are the children of the Most High, that, the Father never stepped in and tried to somehow, you know, save his people. So we're going to go to that. And one of the reasons for such events is because if I'm going to give you an analogy. If I have, right, per se, a son or a child, right, and I tell them, so listen, in order for you to be, the best person that you can be and to be above, all your peers, is to follow my rules and my laws. And if you do this and you follow all of my rules and the laws that I set in my household, then you shall have really great success. But because you being a child that is young and you, see things from different spectrums, and you're saying to yourself, you know what, I can do what I think is right because, I have a good outlook on things. But because you didn't take my advice as a father and you lean on your own overstanding, what happened is that all the things that I was telling you, that if you don't listen, these are the things that will happen. It's the same thing that exactly happened because you did not want to follow my instructions, but thinking that your instructions that you made up for yourselves were better. And in the end, it cost you because you did not listen, right? So the moral of the story is that if we as a people, which this would have more dedicated to our, you know, or for parents, if they were more, obedient and listening to their father, they would have been so much more better off for it. But because they wanted to lean upon their own understanding, now these type of evils came up on them. So now I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 28. And Deuteronomy 28 kind of signifies, well, basically tells you why we were where we still are in the state that we are, even though slowly but surely the Father is changing these curses. But nevertheless, for some of us, it won't change anytime soon because we are still not obeying what our Father is trying to tell us, which is really and truly for our own good. All right? So let's get into it, Israel. So this is Deuteronomy 28, and basically this is the blessings and the cursings, and the curse, sorry, I should say blessing and the curse of the cursing. And this is what the Father tells us would happen if we would not listen. And if we did listen, these are the things that will happen, right? So we're going to go through the scripture right here real quick, and then after we're going to go into some, I would say now, stats, right? So with stats never really truly lie. Stats always kind of really pinpoint where there is an issue, all right? Whether it's good or bad. So let's continue.
Chapter 28. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come on thee, and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. The Lord shall command the blessing upon thee in thy storehouses, and in all that thou settest thine hand unto, and he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, and walk in his ways. And all people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. And the Lord shall make thee the head, and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew. And they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of heart. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And no man shall save thee. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed alway. so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see.
No, Israel, it states right there that thou shalt be crushed always, right? So if you should think about it, Negro people have always been oppressed and crushed. Now, if you really think about it, what is it that we do owned? What is it that we have? What is it that we do possess in this world here? Nothing. Only the clothes on our backs. And the few that might have a little, a little money, right? They are far and disfranchised. They're not together. We are a people that are destroyed, right? Because, for one, we do not want to follow the commandments of the Most High, right? I will continue this uh, Bible verse right here from Deuteronomy 28, right? But I really want to get into something else, right? Which here it is, the letter has actually shown us, right? And I want to just quickly scroll down here and let me kind of enlarge it a bit, right? And here we are. I'm going to highlight this right here, right? I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce to you a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I grant every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years, right? Now, just as what the scriptures, was saying, that we will be crushed always, right? And the word of the Most High does not lie, all right? So let's take it back a little, all right? And let's continue again. Well, let's finish what has been already started.
So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. All thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
No, let's stop right there again, Israel. He shall lend to you, and you shall not lend to him. right? Just use the Caribbean countries just as an example, right? We always keep borrowing money, right? And these so-called first world countries always keep giving us money and lending us money. Now you tell me if I am wrong or if I'm right, right? Just as what Willie Lynch said, he will keep you dependent on them continuously. Now, as I said, whether the letter is true or false, it is really hitting some nails on the head. And the scriptures right here confirms it, right? So let's continue.
Down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenedst not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servedst not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed.
Right? As the scripture said, right? He shall have no pity on you, whether young or old. Just as what Willie Lynch said, he will turn the old male against the young male and the young male against the old male. Right? Let's continue.
Which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kine, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedst, throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee, in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. So that the man that is tender among you, and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. Tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. Her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear. For she shall eat them for want of all things secretly, in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. And ye shall...
And let me pause it there as well, Israel, right? He shall bring upon thee all type of sickness, where even in this law, which is in this book, is even written of, right? And I can tell you, we are suffering from a lot of illnesses in the Black community: colon cancer, breast cancer, heart disease, sugar. I can go on and on and on, right? All because we do not want to listen to what the Most High is telling us. Let's continue.
Shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. And it shall come to pass, that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
All right. Now, let's read it again, Israel. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, just as what they're saying. In slavery, right? We found no ease. Even up to this day, we are finding no ease. Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. We have no rest, Israel. We are keeping, up to this day, we're still fighting. Look at what is going on all over the world, even also in America. I mean, Negro people are being killed left, right, and center, even right after George Floyd and many others. It still continues. No easing up, right? But the Most I shall give thee there a trembling heart, which we have, and a failing of eyes, which we do, and sorrow of mind. I mean, if anything, any Negro people could tell you that we are very sorrowful in mind.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, Would God it were even. And at even thou shalt say, Would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. And no man shall buy you.
So now this verse right here, Israel, is very key. This is the actual last verse of Deuteronomy 28. And you can see it's a long chapter, all right? Because a lot of this is taking place right now, right? And the Most I shall bring thee into Egypt again. Now, it doesn't mean real Egypt, it means spiritual Egypt, because the same thing that our forefathers went through in those days where Moses, so it shall be in the time of our generation, right? Again with ships, by the way whereof I speak unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there he shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. Now, bondman means slave, right? Or bond means to to have you in if you want to say bondage, yeah, same thing. And no man shall buy you means no man shall save you, right? Now, which other people on this place of this planet um, have been carried all over the world in ships and been into slavery than who? Negro people. Now, why I say Negroes, because they like to use the word African. Now, that's not actually the case. As I said before, African and Negro is two separate people in terms of their ways of life, the way they worship, and who they have as their Elohim, right? No, that's for next time. But I am just pointing out this to you so you can see all the connections to the letter, which is very, very close and frightening to what Deuteronomy 28 is talking about. Now, they might say this letter might be false or true, but nevertheless, it is pointing out a lot of recipes that are used in the psychological warfare against our people. And that's no joke, all right? Now, if you don't believe, let's go into stats, because stats never really truly lie, right? So let's do it then, Israel, all right? So I'm going to go to the stats of homicide, right? Where even the scriptures talks about it. We will be utterly destroyed, right? And a failing of eyes, right? So let's use the Caribbean, just one example for now, right? In the Caribbean, remember, they said that Willie Lynch was from Jamaica, right? And he used this methodology, and as he said right here, it will control these slaves for at least 300 years or even more, right? So let's see if it's true or false, right? Now, this is an independent stats company that keeps all the records of homicide rates in the Caribbean and also the Latin Americans, right? Now, I can tell you this, even Latin Americans also are a part of the children of Israel, right? Still, it's just that they are of a different tribe, with different tribes, a different ear texture, but still yet same bloodline, right? But that's for another time. But just dropping that, putting that out there, you know what I mean? So as you can see here, right, in all these countries, these are the top listings of all the countries with the highest homicide rates in all these Caribbean and Latin American nations, right? Remember, they said that Willie Lynch was from Jamaica. And he said that if he use these things and they use it correctly, even when they're not even around, it will continually work its own axis. So we will be still perpetuating these mind conditions, right? And if you don't believe me, look at it. Here in the Caribbean, a lot of bleaching, even also in the North American area, right? Where, dark skinned people are bleaching, thinking that they're probably a better person if their skin is lighter compared to somebody that's dark. Now, if that's not a part of a mind condition, I don't know what is. So let's look here, right? Now, Jamaica leads this list, right? And not only leading this list, they are still way ahead than Venezuela, right? Venezuela, I was surprised. I wouldn't expect Venezuela to be second, but now looking back at it, it would be because it's the same thing. America, matter of fact, if you go back to my last video, which is called not Crafty Council, but there's one, the last video I did basically, no, not fraud, but oh yeah, strong delusions, right? If you go back and check strong delusions in that interview, they talk about how, these guys which are in prominent position, like these bankers and all these people, right? They have so much power that they can destabilize a country by using like the CIA, right? And the CIA and other, organizations actually have, you know, came across, well, um, have done the same thing with Venezuela, because Venezuela is the number one oil country in the world. Now, people don't know that. I thought it was Saudi Arabia, but that's not the case. Saudi Arabia is actually second. And if you go and watch, as I said, matter of fact, go and watch Crafty Council, and Crafty Council, you will get the information in there as well, where Venezuela is number one, and also Saudi Arabia is second, right? And no wonders why they are right up where Jamaica is, because they also are the children of Israel. There are people there from our descendants, and there it is. They're trying to destabilize these countries, just like in Jamaica as well. So we can never focus on what that is truly important, and that is to keep the laws and statutes of the Most High. Because if we do that, we will get immediately. I'm not asking you. I did it for myself, so I can speak personally. Immediately, things will go back to the way it should be. The Father is very merciful. Christ was telling us this a long time ago. If we love each other like we love ourselves, then that in itself makes the law in non effect. Means that you have already overcome the law, so you don't even need it because you're already doing something that is really greater, which is what? Love, charity, right? But they know that if they keep you in a perpetual state, just as what Willie Lynch said, it will continue for a long period of time. Look at it. Jamaica is 46.5 in homicide rate. This is 2020. I don't want to show you 2021 yet, because you might just get more depressed. But this is not for you to depress. This is for you to know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Then it's Venezuela, Honduras. Fourth is who? Trinidad and Tobago. That's our neighbor. That's our brothers as well, and sisters. And they're not far off. They're 28.2. Even though Trinidad and Tobago is a little bit more stable in terms of their economics, but still yet they're still under that same law, just like everybody else. And if you don't follow that law, this will happen. Doesn't matter how good your economics will be, don't matter how much money you're making, that will not count. All right, look at Venezuela. Venezuela is the number one country in the world with oil, and yet they have the highest rate of violence. That don't make sense. They should be happy. They should be great. There shouldn't be no problem for violence because you have wealth. Doesn't mean that there won't be any trouble, but it should be of a very minute, right? Now, let's move on from here. So even also as well, Haiti's there. Here's Haiti, right? Right? I was surprised because I thought Brazil would be more up the board, right? And also our people is there as well. El Salvador, same way. Colombia, Belize, Mexico, all these places our people are there. Puerto Rico, Guatemala, same place. Haiti, Panama, and this is just a short list because there's more. But out of all of these, look where Jamaica is at. Hmm? No, you tell me, right? And not only that, right? We are like one of the smallest islands. Well, the third biggest island in the Greater Antilles, yes, but at the same time, very small country compared to others. And yet we are far exceeding countries which have, a vast more population than us. You know what I mean? Like Venezuela, right? Even Brazil. Brazil is 10 times bigger than Jamaica. And we're way ahead of them, right? Mexico, 10 times bigger than Jamaica. And yet we're way ahead of them. Mexico is a king in cartel, drug string, and all kind of something, and prostitution, and you name it. And yet we are far ahead of all of these countries. Why? Because they said that Willie Lynch lived in Jamaica and he implemented this. And because of implementing this, clearly it must have had some effect because we have the highest rate of bleaching, the highest rate of murder, the highest rate of robberies, the highest rate of rape, the highest rate of missing children out of all these Caribbean countries. The list goes on and on and on. No, it just started. It's just getting better. Yeah. Because let's go to, let's say, the US. All right. So let's see in the US now where, the scheme of things where, Negro people have their, states and where they are, right? Now, this is, let me just show you real quickly so you know that it's not made up. It's the Office of Justice Programs, right? See, programs. See that? US Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquent and Preventions, right? So here they have all ages, counts, juvenile, adult. So we're just going to go with all ages because, they don't have, just like the scripture says, it doesn't matter. They will destroy you. They have no pity on your young nor your old, right? So let's see. So here we have offenses, right? So these are all the offenses that happens, and all races, white, black, American Indians, which is same, house of Israel, just a different tribe, but same people, and Asia, right? So let's just quickly go down to where it says here, no, murder and negligence manslaughter, right? Now, if you see here, it says white in terms of murder and, negligence and manslaughter is 5,070, right? Where it says here black, let's use the word Negro, 5,660. We are topping the charts. Here we go again. Why is that so? If we're so great and, this great people, why is it that we are killing ourselves at a rapid rate than any other nation? Now look at it. American Indians, 170. Asians, 150. So look at these numbers. These numbers, let me blow this up because I want you to see this good, you know what I mean? Because it's a little bit too low. Let me, yeah, pump it up. You know what I mean? Okay, a little bit. Right. All right. All right. Now let's see it again now, Israel. Here we go. All right. So you can see clearly for yourself, right? All these numbers don't lie. Stats don't lie. If you want to say Willie Lynch letter is, it's not true, or it's not, or it's false, or it's not false. The stats don't lie, right? Now look, robberies, right? Now they said right here, whites 33,290, 33,290, right? Now here, blacks or Negroes, 39,229, almost, it's very close with white people because obviously, I'm going to put it out there and no disrespect. It's not all white people, but, if slavery took place and they did all these things, which we know, there's no hiding it, they are a nation of thieves, no disrespect. But it's just the honest truth, because if you check your history is based upon taking people's stuff, like the American Indians, or even better yet, the Negroes from the continent of Ham, where they were, in the wilderness running from persecution from Israel, right? That's just biblical. I'm not even going to touch anything else, right? All right, let's continue. And this is not to disrespect any other nation of people, but we're just speaking truth. As I said, truth is going to be very hard to accept, all right? But until you learn to accept the truth, then you shall be free. And then you know how to operate and know how to deal with your fellow brother, whether they be white, purple, or pink, right? Or Asian, black, Indian, whatever you want to call them, you know what I mean? Right. So let's go to quickly burglary, right? Now this kind of, as I said, you see, The evidence don't lie. Look, right? Burglary, 117,080. This is says right here, white people, right? Now here it says 49,000 for black, still high, way out, 380. Which shows you here that clearly, a lot of Caucasian people are, they like to steal, right? I think that most, Negro people, you do have people like to steal, but most do this because of circumstances. And I can tell you that, like here in Jamaica, our burglary is way off the chart. I mean, I'm going to show you a video where, it's going to be disturbing, where we now are robbing, garbage collectors. That I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around that, but I can't because I'll go mad, right? Let's continue, right? American Indians, 2005. Asian, 2.6. So it shows you the difference, right? Let's go again. Larceny, theft, right? I'm not trying to paint any pictures, but here the stats do not lie. Let's highlight it. Look, 539,390 compared to, as you say here, Negro, 200,045 and 54, right? Or 5,040, any which way you want to put it, right? So clearly we are high, but there's another people that tends to like to do that a little bit more than us. But still yet, this is not good. Because if you compare other people right here, it is very low compared to what we're doing. So it shows us that we're in a very low state, right? And I can go on and on and on. Here it goes, right? We're on the charts, right? We are on the charts. The only thing I don't see them show, which I'm glad still, because that's not a good look, is sexual offense, rape and prostitution. They don't put that information there for some reason. I don't know why. And also rape again here, they don't put it. I'm thinking because somebody's outrunning some people when they think that some people is that of that type of nature. You know what I mean? But I digress, really. All right. So the stats really and truly don't lie. Now, this is not me making up anything. This is here, as I said before, by who? See here? The Office of Justice Programs. All right. So it's not me just making up anything right here. All right. So let's take a jump now from America. Let's go to the UK, right? Let's see if the trend still continues, right? Now, just to make sure, as you can see, this is gov.uk, so official site, right? So not me making up anything. This is their stats, right? Now, let's look at this now, Israel, right? The main facts and figures. So I'm not saying it. This is what is taking place. There were 67 1 slash 126 arrests between April 2018 and March 2019. This is actually close to where certain medical, or let's say pandemic jumped up, right? And almost 5,000 fewer arrested than the previous year, right? Now, Black people were over 3 times as likely to be arrested as white people. They were 32 arrests for every 1,000 Black people and 10 arrests for every 1,000 white people. Overall, men were 6 times as likely to be arrested as women. There were 21 arrests for every 1,000 men and 3 arrests for every 1,000 women. Black men were over 3 times as likely to be arrested than white men. There were 60 arrests for every 1,000 Black men and 17 arrests for every 1,000 white men. The figures of the 2 years to March 19, which Don't include Lancaster police force as they were unable to provide data. So clearly it could be because it was too much or too vast for them to really get it together in time, right? So it shows you right here. I'm not the one making it up. So, let's continue. So let's look at some real figures now, right? Now here we go. Woo! Arrest rates per 1,000 people by ethnicity, right? We got Asian, Bangladesh. Now, let me tell you, in Europe or in England, they have, it's a bit different than the States, right? They actually name out every single different possible, let's say, tribe of people in their country. So, I've seen it already, and I'm saying it's very racist, right? Now look at this: Asian, Bangladesh, Indian, Pakistani, Asian, other, black African, black Caribbean. I'm saying to myself, what's the difference between black African and black Caribbean, which they know. So I'm saying to myself, what's up with all these black and black others? I mean, I'm trying to figure that one out, right? Now check this one too as well, right? It says right here, mixed white Asians, right? Mixed white black African and mixed white black Caribbean. There's a lot of mixing going on here, right? Well, anyways, the real point of the matter is what I'm trying to show you is that out of all of these people, look at the numbers again. It says right here, black. I'm going to say Negro, 32% arrest rate. Now look at Bangladesh, English, India, Pakistani, Asian, others. All these are very low. 32. We're running out. We're running in the lane. Black Africans. So clearly they know. So black and black Africans, two sets of people, as they wouldn't have put it, just group everybody as one. So this is why I'm showing you, Israel, that they know. They're just not telling you because you are not taking the time out to know because you're working what they're telling you. Just as what Willie Lynn said, they'll just give you, they'll wipe out your language and wipe out all that you know and give you what they want to give you. Right? Now look at it. Black Caribbean, right? 33. Black others, I don't know what that means, but clearly it's not good because it's at 64 and leading the bunch. All right. Let's even just go to another group as what they put us, right? Let's say mixed white and black Caribbean, right? 26%, way out, right? So anywhere you have black, there is a problem. See, even where mixed white, black, African, 16%, right? So there is a continuous pattern and it doesn't stop. And this is just three countries. I can go to like Canada, I can go to like France, where there's a lot of black people there, Germany, same thing, right? And the list goes on, right? Right? I can go to many other countries. And if you have a high, dense black level, well, let's say a black population or Negro, let's use the word Negro people, right? You're gonna have a lot of, you know, arrests or murders within that community. And for some reason, they can't get it right, right? It seems like even our country, they can't get it right. Nobody can get this right. Only one thing can get this right. And that's the one thing that we're running from. That's why the scriptures said it, that no man shall buy you. Here it is, right? No man shall buy you. Reason being, no man shall save you. The only thing can save you is Christ. This law of the book, right? And if you do it, it will bring us good success. I mean, it's very straightforward, right? And this is why these people now know that because they said it, the only way we're going to get out of this unless there's something, that is of a phenomenon takes place, which the only thing, as what he's saying, which they know, is unless Christ comes back and saves his people. That's the only way you're going to be free. Or you can what? Follow the laws and statutes of the Most High. I mean, I can't say that enough, right? So it shows you, Israel, that we are under a mental and psychological warfare, not to mention spiritual. But that's another one in its own, that's an old lesson in itself. So, as what even the scripture said, we will have no ease from all gates. We will be having problems constantly. So, that's going to be with our food, that's going to be with our spirituality, that's going to be with our families. It will not stop. We will be having different problems all at once. Matter of fact, one place I experienced it, and it was a very, very uneasy thing. I'll never forget it. Being, in Europe, you know, you know, one time when I was in London, right? And I was going through a little something, and it's one thing I can never forget. When you have problems in that country, I don't know what it was, and I'm saying I mean over and over sometimes, so I know it's not a coincidence. You'll be having like three problems at once, like three major, and you're wondering, how is that? You know what I mean? Even here, I mean, when you go over in other countries, it's slightly a little bit different, but some places don't really, because the same spiritual, and mental warfare that's on us, that curse keeps following us because we do not want to, to listen to the Most High commandments. He tells us, if you do not hearken unto him, these things will overtake you. And you know what? The Most High don't lie. So if you don't believe the scriptures, that's really up to you. You know what I mean? I can't force nobody to to really see the truth. But scripture does says as well that who have eyes to see, let him see. But I'm going to give you one scriptures before I go, and this is a really powerful one as well, right? So let me get it, right? So I'm going to go to Joshua, right? We go to Joshua. Sorry, that's Old Testament, right? Um, I'm not seeing it, right? Oh, so it's New Testament. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so it's Old Testament. I know. So I was wondering, what. You know what I mean? So Joshua 1 and 8, right? So, excuse me there, Israel. Right? So I'm going to read this, and this is going to be my last thing before I go. And it reads, right? This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. So you see, Israel, the Most High is telling you right here. If you meditate in what? This law, all right? Not me making up anything. This book of the law, and don't let it depart from thy mouth, and you meditate day and night. Day and night means obviously, if you go to your bed, you read a scripture, and if you wake up, you read something as well. The man said, if you have time in between, you can do that as well, right? And it doesn't cost you anything. I mean, we are on our phones like 24/7, doing all kind of something, right? And we didn't that don't bother us. You know what I mean? We're on it for a very long period of time. So if we can invest some of that little time in reading a scripture, just like probably a minute or two or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it'd be more fruitful for us than anything else, right? And it says right here, then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, And the Father tells you in Deuteronomy, if you do follow what he's telling you and keep these commandments, you will be above all other nations. Not me saying it, scriptures, right? So, Israel, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to say, I pray that this has been edifying and this has been something that, will put you in that mind state of knowing that you are on you know, a spiritual warfare, psychological warfare, and also, in order to break that chain and that curse is to get back to your book of the law and meditate therein. And if you do so, thy way will be prosperous. And then you shall have really good success. I mean, I'm a living testimony, right? Right? So, but don't look to be having no billions of dollars if that's what you come in to do, and fancy cars, and that's not what it's about. The Father will provide for you because he knows that you got needs, and he will make sure that all the needs that you have, which are things that will keep you sustained. He will take care of that until Christ comes to really break down this wicked world and to establish his new world. So then you will see real prosperity that you have never seen before. But in order to do so, you have to depart from all them sinful ways, them wickedness, just as what our foreparents did. And if you can do that, get yourself submerged in some water, clean off, the coral, you know what I mean? And then start, meditating on the law and trying to keep it and endure to that end. Trust me, you're shining brighter than a diamond in the dark, right? So with that, Israel, I'm going to say, all praises unto the Most High. We're giving thanks unto thee, Father, for thou art merciful to thy people. All praises unto the Most High.